What is up, YouTube? My COVID hair is out of control, so I dug out a 1997 Stanley Cup champion starter hat for this episode. I am Paul S. Stuffy Esquire, and me and the crew are here to discuss 1980s Frontmen. We're going to try a little different format. I am just your host and commentator today. I'll be relying on the boys to give me their picks. Real quick, I got my vintage shades I found. Speaking of sunglasses, I mean, I'd like some really nice high-end sunglasses, but I tend to lose my sunglasses. I tip jet skis over in canals, and they go into the depths. So I'm going to try out Shady Rays. They are not a sponsor, but I'm going to check them out. And I've been enjoying these fan submission Nike lows, kind of like a skater shoe. So thanks, fans that sent these in. I've been loving them, riding my bike. It's a little chilly here in Detroit, so I'm wearing a flannel with cargo shorts. And that's my fashion today. But, of course, I got a dive watch on. So, boys, without further ado, let's throw it over to the channel musician himself, RCW, for his first, in the number 3 position, 80s Frontman.
What an intro. And finally, you know, we're like true frontmen here wearing sunglasses like rock stars. And since this is an 80s Frontman show, I got my G-Shock on a digital Casio watch. So my third Frontman is, he's dynamic, but not in the dynamic sense that I think you want to think off a stage. And it's going to be Brian Johnson from the band AC/DC. He came right in at 1980 with the album Back in Black. He was put into a position that all seemed to be like losing for him. I mean, like, how can you fill Bon Scott's shoes? And he does it with a Rolling Thunder and Power and Rain. Cool guy from England, a beer and burger type guy. I love the guy. Just watch an episode of him on Sammy Hagar's Rock and Roll Road Trip. Just seems like a down-to-earth, cool guy. And he still wears just a pair of jeans, a T-shirt, and his cabbie hat.
Man, the cabbie hat is awesome. You know what, Mick? You know, I'm throwing mine on right now.
Yeah, you got to grow your hair out a little bit like him, John.
No, hey, this is how I'm going. You know what? You inspired me, RCW. Throwing on the cabbie
I would just
hat.
like to comment that within the first 2 minutes, the fourth wall has been broken. We've already referred to Jay Goebbels by his Christian name.
Well, we're not professionals here. You know, we're not professional frontmen, obviously. We're not professionals at anything.
Speak for yourself, pal.
At least I'm not.
RC Dub, if that is your real name. Brian Johnson, I love Brian Johnson. I know there's a lot of back and forth about, you know, what's real AC/DC, what isn't. I like them both. I didn't know he was, I thought that bastard was Australian like the rest of them. That kind of surprises me with that. And
No,
he does meet the requirements of being under, 5'3" or whatever to be in the band. And guy's got some great stage presence. You know, more than one person can bring some dynamite and some explosiveness to this show. And,
it's not just the TNT kid. You're right. You're right, Q Diggity.
Well, you're starting it off with a blast, and I love it. Keep it coming, baby.
Well, Q, it's your cue to to put your first pick out there.
QQ, I'm breaking the fourth wall on myself. I think our Ryan Q there. He's my other alias. Anyhow, my third pick is I'm going with someone that RC Dub introduced me to this band, and he got it from OGRW, and it is the Tragically Hip's Gord Downie. Love this band. As soon as I heard it, one of the first albums that I heard of theirs was a live album shot at Cobo Hall. Absolutely fantastic. Saw them for the first time at Woodstock 99. Closest I got to the main stage, we were in a sea of our good Canadian friends. Just such a stage presence that my emotions were on high. He's a bit maybe eccentric type of fella, but just what he's doing up on stage, the way he dresses, nothing too flashy, but it's unique. And he starts running his mouth a bit with stuff, not in a, I would say, a bad way, but he loves poetry and talking about whatever's going on in that whack mind of his. And it's great stuff. Got to see some beautiful Canadian boobs too while we were at it. That, you know, always a good thing. And also, you know, off the stage, I'm not a big environmental guy myself. I wish I was, but I'm lazy. But he did a documentary about the Great Lakes. The documentary was kind of scary, but very good stuff. A guy that's involved with a lot of things. And he passed away 2.5 years ago. He had a brain tumor. But for a showman and a frontman, he did a farewell tour while the guy was terminal. And I miss that show because I'm a jack off as always. But I love this man, Gordo. You're my man.
Hey, Q Diggity. I'm glad we got to support the Canadians at that time at Woodstock, because I feel like we were kind of the only Americans that knew about this band when we were there. And, you know, hey, he came from downtown. I think that's one of your favorite lyrics from him, one of them.
Born Ready for You, RC Dub. And he said a line at that show, too, when he did a Ahead by a Century, saying that the tree that this song was written on is still standing. I don't know where this stuff comes into his head, but hell yeah.
It's poetic, like you said.
I mean, the Canadians are our neighbors to the north. You know, we're in the Caribbean of the north. They're just on the other side, a little bit more north. You know, Gord Downie, even the Prime Minister of Canada shed a tear when he passed. Yeah, I wish I would have pushed harder. I suggested to you guys when they came on their last final tour, they were coming to Sarnia. That was only about an hour drive for us. We should have made an effort. I really regret that we didn't go to that final show, but hey, we got to see them in '99. So.
Hey, also, Jay Goebbels and I went and saw them at the State Theater, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was a little disappointed in the show.
Man, look, the band's awesome, very underrated. We were in a sea of Canadians there. It was hilarious, but
as usual,
good overall pick. Very underrated pick. Q Diggity.
Great pick.
All right, fellas, for my number 3. Oh, first, wristwatch check. I finally got the Omega Seamaster on my bracelet. Got it fitted. It really kicks it up a notch. And speaking of kicking it up a notch, my number 3 right here, David Lee Roth, fellas. I mean, unbelievable. This guy, the kind of charisma, the stage presence, the flair, the karate kicks, the splits. The guy was nuts. He was awesome. If you ever want a good laugh, put on Running with the Devil a cappella. You'll laugh your balls off, but it's awesome. Great lead singer, great front man. It's my number 3 pick.
Jay Goobs, Diamonds Are Forever, and so is Kung Fu. Fantastic pick. Another debate on whether the first guy or the second guy. Diamond Dave, an absolute rocker. Not the biggest fan of 80s music, but he epitomizes it. Drugs, sex, rock and roll. I'm familiar with 2 of them. Great stuff.
Yeah, look at this guy. I mean, look at that.
He was the king of the 80s. Diamond Dave, look at his solo covers of his albums, too. He's standing in the ocean. The one he's got, you know, Tabuki paint all over his face like he's a crazy man. And you ask the guy a question, and he goes off on an hour rant in any interviews. Yeah, he's the ultimate frontman of the 80s, I think.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, you know what? Van Halen was, you know, starting their thing when MTV started getting big. And so the videos, even like, they took his persona and just made it bigger. I mean, the guy could have been an actor, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, and he came up with like that whole 80s looking style to me. If you think about it, with the spandex and, you know, all the bands wrapped around everything. I mean, he kind of started that, you know, in the late 70s and bringing it into the 80s.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I remember hearing an interview with, it was one of the very first female VJs on MTV. Can't remember. I don't know if it was Martha Quinn. I can't remember who it was. But she's like, it's so funny seeing Diamond Dave in person because he's like wearing spandex. He's got this long hair. He's like, a lot of guys would be like, they saw him off stage, be like, I'm gonna beat this guy up. But he's on stage, everybody loves him.
Yeah, Jay Goobs, that makes me want to put on some Jakar, the big daddy of the 80s power scents, right here. Original bottle. Makes me want to just splash some of that on and head out and just do some headbanging.
Great background pick for him, too. Just, I mean, diving Dame in all his glory with his mouth wide open and that hair like a lion mane.
Yeah, love it. All right, let's turn it back around. Get your first pick there, RCW. Or second pick, sorry.
So we got to go with Stuffy.
Obviously, you weren't listening as usual.
No, I missed that.
Said I'm just hosting this week. I was letting you guys.
Yeah, I did miss that. There's a lot of text messages that go. That's right. You're just the host. Okay.
I also said it in the beginning of the episode, in case you were paying attention.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I was thinking that the order was going with me as the Royal first.
The Royal week.
Yes.
No,
so anyway, yeah, my second pick is Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness himself. Now, the 80s is like real weird for me for frontmen because I feel a lot of them transitioned into the 70s to the 80s. Like Ozzy was, huge in Sabbath, but he wasn't the frontman until like the 80s, until kind of he had his own band, Somebody throws a dove up on the stage, he bites the head off it. He thought it was fake, but he didn't know. He still grabbed it and bit the head off it. And that lived on to legend with him, him constantly biting off fake bats' heads. And his music was great. His singing is still great. When you hear his voice, it's like he can barely talk, but when he sings, it's like, where did that come from? And he's the Prince of Darkness. So my number 2 is Ozzy Osbourne.
Can't get much better than the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, I got a quick comment on the biting off of the heads. I remember that scared every household suburban mom in the world. I remember my mom reading that in the Detroit Free Press and being like, oh my God, because my brother was into, Ozzy. He bit a head off of a bat. It was like, the craziest thing. She didn't want him to listen to him anymore, thought it was devil music. And by the way, I'm glad he doesn't do that anymore. He might have spread COVID earlier than we got it if he would have kept biting bats' heads off. So I'm glad he phased out of that. He's got a great channel on SiriusXM, man. The Boneyard, great tunes on that channel.
Yeah, and Ozzy's one of his other great quotes was that he's like, 'cause all he ever wanted to do was make enough money to have to be able to afford to go to a pub and have a burger and a beer. So I can respect a guy like that.
He made a little bit more than that, RC Dub, but
just a tad,
a little bit. The stage presence, the persona, the Prince of Darkness, as you said. I'm just going to repeat everything you said, but I've never seen him live. I've seen so much video. That live album that went out in the early '90s, where they had the speaker cover on it. Fantastic stuff. Man, is it powerful! Jeez.
It came with the scratch-off tattoos too. You put them on.
Dude, do you remember RCW? Do you remember when we saw him like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago?
Yeah, with Slash.
Yeah, I had very low expectations for that show. I'm like, we'll see. Dude, he was awesome. The guy, I don't even know how old he was at the time, but he was awesome. Voice still sounded great. Jumping up on stage, spraying people with foam. I mean, he was nuts.
Yeah, I think, that bucket, I think there was like a bucket of spit once, and he dumped it on himself, and then that turned into like buckets of water that he would, now dump on the crowds and everything. You see him with the buckets, he's always thrown it. But I do believe that it started from like he dumped a bucket of spit on him. So, I mean, that's a frontman, that's frontman rock and roll right there, biting bats' heads off and causing controversy. And
yeah, another thing I think that makes a frontman is excessive drug use. In later years, his wife Sharon used to have to pay a guy. I think she still does. Pay a guy just to follow him around to make sure he doesn't do too much drugs or do drugs. Like, she pays a guy's salary just to keep Ozzy clean. Like, how crazy is that? So let's throw it back to Q Diggity for his next position.
I appreciate it, Paul. Was hoping maybe for a little bit more hype for what I'm going after right now, because my man that I'm going to talk about had a great hype man. I'm going with the incredible Rhyme Animal, the uncannibal Chuck D, Public Enemy #1. I love Public Enemy. I told a story before about having my gangster rap tape being taken away and whatnot, and I still loved hip hop at the time, and I had asked for Apocalypse 91 for my birthday, and put my folks at a crossroad there, like, do we want them dealing drugs and treat women like crap, or do we want them to be an angry black man? And I'm glad they went with that, because I love Public Enemy. Chuck D, much more explosive when he was younger than he is now, and also, again, I mean, the things he does, his message was to make yourself better, make your community better. That makes other things better. There's some crappy shit going on right now, but starts with yourself and your loved ones and your community. That's the message I took. I certainly don't follow it as much as I should, but hey, white, black, red-faced people like me, get down with Public Enemy. I love that shit. Can't trust it.
Yeah, Q Diggity. And another thing with the 80s and them, they meshed, the hip hop, rock and roll, and rap all together. And he was one of the innovators of that. And I know you love New York too. One of your favorites. You're definitely one of your favorite sports cities as well.
You're being sarcastic.
Yeah, dude, the incredible Rhyme Animal, man. He's he kind of brought got to be one of the first to bring politics into rap, which is kind of crazy. Definitely one of a kind. Chuck D, awesome.
Yeah, he's a little heavy-handed with that, but he backed it up, so I'll take it.
Cool.
I agree.
All right. Well, I'm going to get going with my second pick, guys, and it's, little of a dark horse here, but I'm going Michael Hutchence from In Excess. Now, it's not the typical hard rock band you normally think of, but In Excess was awesome, man. And this guy had total charisma on stage, just awesome voice, and little controversy on how he died. I'll let you guys look that up if you want. But awesome singer, lost him too soon, and just an awesome 80s frontman.
Did he also die in a hotel room in Thailand?
There's you have to look it up. There's little rumors out there. I want to smear the guy's name. He was a great guy.
I wish I could have the balls to dabble in autoerotic, choking yourself to nut, but maybe I don't want to do that. I'm too scared. But and it's a great pick, Jay Goobs. A dark horse candidate, perhaps, something you had up your sleeve. I thought we were just doing generic frontmen of any era. Got this one tossed in my lap that we're going after the 80s, my favorite time for music. And of course, this guy says he's going to wait around, see what else says. As soon as it happens, I don't know, I throw out some stupid pick, and he's like, Michael Hutchence. That's my guy.
Hey, that's why he's Kid Dynamite. He always blows it up at the end.
Pulling it out.
Throws in a little curveball. Hey, why don't we bring up House of Cards again while we're at it? I'm still fuming over that one.
It was a great move. I mean, he just was like, we picked a name out of the hat, 80s. He's like, Michael Hutchence.
Everything, when it comes to him, everything's just simple. And yeah, this is just what it is. And, I got this. Okay, let's go. Nothing's ever complicated.
I will say, Suicide Blonde, I can jam that anytime. I just love the beat to that. Suicide Blonde's a great NXS song.
You guys do yourself a favor and go onto YouTube, look at their live shows. I mean, freaking amazing. The guy's voice is amazing live, too. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was kind of like a sophisticated Jim Morrison of the 80s, for sure.
Yeah, Jim Morrison was a drunken buffoon.
Yeah,
Give me
all
the
my
Guess Who. Give me the Guess Who.
my crankiness and bitterness aside, that's a great pick, Jay Goobs. I love that guy. Their stuff is fantastic. The tight remix, hell yeah.
Yep. Like you said, great lyrics, great guitar, great stage presence. Yeah, he fit all the categories. And he was, I think they were just pure 80s too. I mean, they might have, I can't remember when he died though.
They rolled some albums into the 90s, but
Very early.
But yeah, I mean the bulk of the catalog is the 80s.
Right. Do you know when he died?
Wasn't I
Look it
10,
up.
10 years, 10, 15 years ago? Something like that. I can't remember. I know I didn't get to see him live, which bums me out. But,
yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I think they were done. Like, I think we would have definitely probably tried to see them in the 90s, later 90s, when we were in our teenage years, if they're around. That's what I'm trying to think of when.
I remember liking them as a kid, watching the music videos, but I really didn't get into them until my probably 30s, where I was like, wow, this band is really freaking cool. Because most of the crap I always listened to was hard rock, and they're a little, different from the norm of what I normally listen to. But I love them.
Saxophone.
Oh yeah.
Okay, RC Dub, bring us into the next one, buddy.
Okay, my number one, he's straight from Boston, and his name is Steven Tyler, Aerosmith. Like I said, I had trouble picking up frontmen for the 80s because there were so many transitioning into the 80s. Steven Tyler did it in the middle to the late 70s, and then he brought it into the 80s, and he did another thing, which goes along with Q Diggity's pick. He did it with Run DMC, collaborating with them. And then he actually said, hey, I want to sing with Run DMC with the song. And, another kind of ground-breaking type video in the whole MTV era. And they started a whole another, in the 80s, I mean, they had the 70s, and then they had their whole different success in the 80s. And the same thing with the 90s. And then even Steven Tyler in the 2000s brought a whole nother group of people to watch, a younger generation to watch, being on American Idol. So the guy's a trendsetter. He's been doing rock and roll for 50 years and they're probably one of the greatest rock bands. If we were to do like greatest American rock bands, I think Aerosmith would be in the top three. So Steven Tyler.
They would definitely be my number one in America. And Steven Tyler, another guy, another band that had a resurgence in the 80s, and the videos, dude, Steven Tyler stole the show of the 80s in those videos, and he was just awesome. And even to this day, the guy's still got a great voice. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, RC Dub, it's not very surprising. You took the white side in the rap rock mix-up. But you're so right. Beyond having a great set of DSLs, this guy, he got me into rock and roll and all that stuff. Loving an Elevator, all that. I mean, that was right where, I started, my pants started getting tighter, not because of my weight, but because, the sexy girls dancing and all that crap. And then I maybe was a little confused because I thought he was a girl at the time. So, I've been messed up my whole life. But, it's great stuff. Great rock band. 70s, 80s, 90s. Just brought it. Just kept bringing it, And, hell yeah. Dude, come on. Great picks again.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Q Diggy. I was going to say, he's another one that if you saw him on the street and he wasn't famous dressed the way he would dress sometimes in the 80s, I don't think people would accept him. But on stage, he had that presence.
Yeah.
And now he looks like he's just he could be one of our crazy grandmas.
Crazy Aunt Steven Tyler. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, he's awesome. Great pick.
Good stuff, RC Dub. I'm going to talk about a guy that didn't look like a lady and didn't want to, but anyway, that's a poor joke. I'm going with, to me, my favorite frontman of all time. Had a good run in the 80s, getting some pub because they came out with a movie about him, but it's Freddie Mercury. I liked, I didn't know tons about Queen as a youngster, but then obviously Wayne's World helped that out more. And then I realized all these songs that they sung that I had heard on the radio that my folks were playing. It's like, oh darn, these guys are the shit. And naturally a great singing voice, the harmonizing they did, and the opera and the melodic type of things they did were fantastic. But this guy has a stage presence like no others. It's a gravitas. I mean, the energy, the way that he posed and the way that he moved around and belted it out, it is incredible. I've ran into people that don't, get a little upset because he's a left-handed bat, and that's foolish. I mean, it's just such good stuff. Why would you deny yourself just something that is so just, man, it's moving, and obviously Live Aid was in the 80s. Great performance there. Every time he hit the stage, they tried to get Paul Rogers to replace him after he passed. Paul Rogers, fine singer, musician. You cannot replace this guy. I don't care if he sounded exactly like him. You cannot. The stage presence, bar none the best in my book. Freddie fucking Mercury. Okay. Freddie stinking Mercury.
I couldn't disagree with you at all by any of it. The only thing right now is, like, if he was still alive, could we maybe get you and him on a date? Just by the way, you just gave that introduction to him. But I agree 100%.
I could appreciate someone's talent without wanting to involve myself sexually with them. Thank you.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what.
I just said date.
In the 80s, Freddie Mercury's mustache was the front man on its own. I mean, that thing was unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, that guy, incredible performer. Rest in peace. Lost him too soon.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Q Diggity. Wayne's World definitely brought Bohemian Rhapsody to like the masses. But growing up, I had an older brother that was greater than 10 years older than me, and we shared a room. So I was always a decade behind. Like, I didn't start buying my own music till probably the early 90s. So I had, the rock posters, the 8-tracks, the vinyl. We shared a stereo. So I had, Queen, Billy Joel, Pink Floyd, The Doors. I had all these great music, jamming in my bedroom. So I definitely was an early Queen fan. I loved their music, some of the more weird ones. There was a lot of Revenge of the Nerds had some cool cameo scenes with some Queen music. So, yeah, definitely Queen is a great pick. And I think what makes a good frontman is just not their stage presence, but their wild behavior off the stage, too. So, definitely Freddie fits that bill.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so
okay. Are we down to the Dynamite Kid?
All right, I'll wrap it up. My number one, as you guys can see, unfortunately, Kurt Cobain was not eligible, so I had to go with my favorite. All jokes aside, Axl Rose. Just what can you say, man, dude? The guy was awesome. What a great vocal range. I mean, think about this. Guns N' Roses, there's a million cover bands out there. How many Guns N' Roses cover bands do you know of? You want to know why? Because no one can sing like this guy. Incredible stage presence. I mean, look at dude. He's wearing a kilt with a catcher chest protector. Only Axl Rose can pull that shit off. Just unbelievable. One of my favorite bands of all time. The guy was awesome. And was he controversial? Hell yeah, he was. Was he nuts off stage? Hell yeah, he was. But it doesn't matter. The band, him, unbelievable. My number one pick, fellas.
Yeah, it's obviously a great pick. I mean, they started a riot in St. Louis because he didn't want to go on because his throat was tickling a little bit. He would dive if somebody pissed him off in the crowd and fight the person. And, yeah, the music was top-notch. So, I mean, Axl Rose and Diamond Dave, they owned the 80s. I think Diamond Dave a little more earlier, and then Axl took it over in about 86, 87.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Axl's very powerful. I would go with that same outfit if I was trying to, catch split finger fastballs while playing the bagpipes. I'm glad that we had an opportunity to do some Guns N' Roses, stuff that RCW wants me to do with late rockers. But anyway, sore throats aside, Guns N' Roses is a great band, and he is a fantastic frontman. I remember my sister playing that live show, I think was in Tokyo or something like that, for Use Your Illusion. Soundgarden opened up for him. Blew my doors off. It's the guy's high energy. The guy talking about him's high energy. Blammo.
Oh, fun times.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I mean, he definitely was a representative. And Jay Goobs, I'm glad you did not go with Kurt Cobain, because we had one whole fan that threatened to leave the channel if we had Kurt Cobain in this episode. So we can't afford losing one fan with our numbers here, fellas. So I think that's a great end. So fans, we need some more help. We need some more topic suggestions. I need some help picking out my next pair of sunglasses at an affordable price. Throw some comments out there. Help share our videos. Like, subscribe, click the bell. Let's get this thing going. I'm doing some karate here, like a lot of those 80's frontmen would be doing. Like they were into karate. So peace out, YouTube.
Rock and roll, YouTube. Boom.
Later.
Good times, yo.
Oh, yeah. 17 minutes. We did it.
17 minutes.
Did we really do it?